When installing a subpanel, understanding the equipment grounding conductor, or EG, requirements is crucial. The question is whether you can use a conduit, specifically a 3-inch rigid aluminum conduit, as the equipment ground when feeding a 120/208 volt, 3-phase, 200 amp subpanel with an existing circuit consisting of 4 300 mcm conductors, 3 hots and a neutral. The answer is no, you cannot use the conduit as the equipment ground. The National Electrical Code, commonly referred to as the NEC, mandates a separate equipment grounding conductor for all subpanels. This EGC must be either an insulated or uninsulated conductor, and its size must comply with Table 250.122 of the NEC. Therefore, a fifth wire must be pulled to serve as the EGC. The equipment grounding conductor is essential for ensuring the safety of the electrical system. It provides a low impedance path for fault currents to return to the source, which helps to prevent electrical shocks and fires. There are several key aspects to consider regarding the equipment grounding conductor. Firstly, the size of the EGC must be determined according to Table 250.122 of the NEC. This table correlates the size of the overcurrent protective device, such as a circuit breaker or fuse, with the minimum size of the equipment grounding conductor. Secondly, the insulation of the EGC can be either insulated or uninsulated. If an uninsulated conductor is used, it must be installed in a manner that protects it from physical damage. Thirdly, the connection of the EGC is critical. It must be connected to the subpanel's ground bus and to the equipment grounding terminal of each device in the subpanel. To elaborate on the sizing of the equipment grounding conductor, Table 250.122 of the NEC provides specific guidelines. For instance, if the overcurrent protective device is rated at 200 amps, the minimum size of the copper equipment grounding conductor is number 6 American wire gauge, or AUG. If aluminum conductors are used, the minimum size would be number 4 AWG. It is important to consult the specific table in the NEC for accurate sizing based on the overcurrent protection. Regarding insulation, while the NEC permits both insulated and uninsulated equipment grounding conductors, insulated conductors are generally preferred, particularly in corrosive environments or where the EGC might come into contact with dissimilar metals. The insulation helps prevent galvanic corrosion and ensures the integrity of the grounding path. When connecting the equipment grounding conductor, it is essential to make secure and reliable connections. The EGC should be connected to the subpanel's ground bus using appropriate connectors, such as grounding lugs or terminals. Similarly, each device within the subpanel, such as receptacles, lighting fixtures, and appliances, must have its equipment grounding terminal connected to the EGC. This ensures that any fault current can safely return to the source, tripping the overcurrent protective device and energizing the circuit. In summary, the NEC strictly prohibits using the conduit as the sole equipment grounding conductor for a subpanel. A separate equipment grounding conductor is required to provide a reliable low impedance path for fault currents. The EGC must be sized according to Table 250.122 of the NEC, can be either insulated or uninsulated, and must be properly connected to the subpanel's ground bus and the equipment grounding terminals of all devices within the subpanel. Failing to comply with these requirements can create a dangerous situation, increasing the risk of electrical shock and fire. Always consult the latest edition of the NEC and follow all applicable local codes and regulations when installing or modifying electrical systems. Safety should always be the top priority when working with electricity. Using the conduit as an equipment ground is generally not permitted because conduit connections can loosen over time, reducing the effectiveness of the ground path. A dedicated equipment grounding conductor provides a more reliable and consistent grounding path. When selecting the type of conductor for the EGC, consider the environmental conditions. In damp or corrosive environments, an insulated conductor with a corrosion-resistant jacket is recommended. Also, ensure that the conductor material, whether copper or aluminum, is compatible with the terminals and connectors used to prevent galvanic corrosion. When terminating the equipment grounding conductor, use appropriate tools and techniques to ensure a secure and reliable connection. Torque connectors to the manufacturer's specifications and inspect connections regularly to ensure they remain tight. In addition to the requirements for the equipment grounding conductor, the NEC also specifies requirements for bonding the metal parts of the electrical system. Bonding ensures that all metal parts are at the same electrical potential, reducing the risk of electrical shock. The metal enclosure of the subpanel must be bonded to the equipment grounding conductor. This is typically accomplished by connecting a bonding jumper from the enclosure to the ground bus. Metal conduits, cable trays, and other metal parts of the electrical system must also be bonded together to create a continuous grounding path. Grounding and bonding are critical for electrical safety. They provide a path for fault currents to return to the source, tripping the overcurrent protective device and energizing the circuit. They also help to equalize the potential between metal parts, reducing the risk of electrical shock. Always follow the NEC and all applicable local codes and regulations when installing or modifying electrical systems. When installing a subpanel, it is also important to consider the neutral conductor. The neutral conductor carries the unbalanced current from the load back to the source. The neutral conductor must be sized according to the calculated load and must be installed in accordance with the NEC. In a 120/208 volt system, the neutral conductor is typically smaller than the phase conductors. However, it must be large enough to carry the maximum unbalanced load. The neutral conductor must be insulated and must be identified by a white or grey color. It must be connected to the neutral bus in the subpanel and must be kept separate from the equipment grounding conductor. The NEC also specifies requirements for the grounding electrode system. The grounding electrode system provides a connection to the earth, which helps to stabilize the voltage and provides a path for lightning currents. The grounding electrode system typically consists of a ground rod, a metal water pipe, or a concrete encased electrode. The grounding electrode system must be connected to the equipment grounding conductor and the neutral conductor at the service entrance. The size and type of grounding electrode system must be determined in accordance with the NEC. When installing a subpanel, it is important to follow all applicable codes and regulations. The NEC is a comprehensive set of standards that provides guidance on the safe installation of electrical systems. Local codes and regulations may also apply and must be followed. It is always best to consult with a qualified electrician to ensure that the subpanel is installed correctly and safely. Here is a further breakdown of key considerations for your specific scenario. Given you're using a discontinued circuit comprising 300 MCM conductors, the existing wiring might not fully comply with current NEC standards, especially concerning grounding practices that have evolved over time. The NEC emphasis on a dedicated EGC underscores the limitations of relying solely on metallic conduit for grounding, primarily due to potential discontinuities and corrosion at joints, which can impede fault current flow. In your installation, selecting the appropriate size for the fifth wire, the egg, is paramount. Referring to Table 250.122, correlate the size of your overcurrent protection device protecting the 200 amp subpanel feeder to determine the minimum required AWG size for the copper or aluminum EGC. Since you are feeding a 200 amp subpanel, the overcurrent protection device upstream, whether it's a circuit breaker or fuses, dictates the EGC size. For example, if the feeder is protected by a 200 amp breaker, the minimum copper EGC size would typically be number 6 AWG, as specified in the table. If using aluminum, a larger size would be necessary to achieve equivalent ampacity and conductivity. When running the fifth wire, ensure it is installed within the same conduit as the existing conductors. This practice minimizes impedance and inductance, aiding in efficient fault current return. Consider using an insulated conductor for the EGC to protect against corrosion and potential contact with dissimilar metals within the conduit, enhancing long-term reliability. When connecting the EGC within the subpanel, use a dedicated grounding busbar, providing a central connection point for all equipment grounding conductors within the panel. Ensure that all connections are clean, tight, and properly torqued according to manufacturer specifications to maintain a low impedance path to ground. In addition to the EGC, verify the proper bonding of all metallic components within the subpanel enclosure. This includes bonding the enclosure itself to the grounding busbar, ensuring that any fault current is safely conducted back to the source. Furthermore, consider the impact of voltage drop on your feeder conductors. While the 300 MCM conductors are substantial, calculate the voltage drop under maximum load conditions to ensure it remains within acceptable limits, typically not exceeding 3% for feeders, to maintain optimal equipment performance. Review the NEC requirements for conductor ampacity, dirting factors, and temperature limitations, especially given the conduit fill with 4 300 MCM conductors and the EGC. Ensure that the conductors are properly rated for the application and that any necessary adjustments are made to account for ambient temperature and conductor bond length. Finally, document all aspects of the installation, including conductor sizes, types, and connections, as well as grounding and bonding methods. This documentation will serve as a valuable reference for future maintenance and troubleshooting.